The National Assembly has postponed the passage of next year's budget. Senate President Ahmed Lawan said there were errors in the budget estimate submitted by President Muhammadu Buhari. Our rights correspondent Georgina Undukwe Ezianyika has the report.
The 2023 appropriation bill will be passed on Thursday has been dashed as the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, announced at plenary that there are irreconcilable figures detected by the appropriation committees of both chambers of the National Assembly. The Senate President came on the heels of an earlier announcement that the bill will be passed Thursday before the chamber adjourns for the Christmas recess.
When our committees on appropriation in the Senate and the House started to reconcile the figures of what we have done and what was presented, the problems became very obvious and they were not easy to deal with. And therefore, our committees had to start a process of cleaning up the bill first. That process, of course, also engaged the executive arm because the problem came from there. Was concluded yesterday, only yesterday. And our committee secretariats are not able to finish processing the budget for us to take today nor tomorrow.
Both chambers of the National Assembly will hold a special session on Wednesday, December 28, 2022, to consider and then pass the 2023 appropriation bill alongside the 2022 finance bill and the 819.5 billion naira 2022 supplementary budget.
Let me advise the executive. The bills that have come to us, the Ways and Means, the supplementary appropriation, the finance bill, whoever is invited to come and explain, give information or any details for the National Assembly to understand must do so, because it's not our work alone. We want to do our work thoroughly. We want to understand whatever we are going to deal with, and our decisions, we want to be based on information. And time is of essence.
In the meantime, the chairman of the Senate Appropriation Committee has directed the committees on Works, Finance and Water Resources to work on the supplementary budget submitted by the executive and forward same to the Appropriation Committee as soon as possible. Georgina Ndukwezaika, Arise News.
We are now being joined from faraway Australia by the spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, to tell us, what are the discrepancies noticed by the National Assembly just at the 11th hour when the 2023 budget was supposed to have been passed into law? 3 months, clear 3 months after Mr. President submitted it to the National Assembly. Kalu?
Yeah, thank you very much. I like the fact that Nigerians have gotten used to this new tradition that the Night Assembly insisted on. That is returning the budget to the constitutional calendar of January to December. And we are getting used to it. It's becoming a culture. And that has gladdened our hearts. The Nigerians are quickly asking, what is happening to the budget? Bring it up to speed. As you know, it was on the 7th of October that Mr. President led this budget. And 7th of October to November to December is about 2 months and a few weeks. A lot of job, supposed to be done on that budget for it to meet the current realities of our time and the economic situation of our country. We cannot sacrifice quality on the altar of speed. Because if we do, we will return back to the work and trying to clean up a mess that would have been avoided if a thorough job is done at this time. So based on that, the both assemblies, both chambers, both the Senate and the House of Representatives are in agreement that more job is supposed to be done to make sure that we meet our target, which is supposed to be before the end of December, to enable the implementation of the budget to commence from the beginning of next year. We are still on track. And in the wisdom of the leadership of the Assembly, both the Senate, like you have the President of the Senate declare, the Chairman of the National Assembly, and also the Speaker who has been online with me after plenary, they agreed that it is better for us to go on break for the Christmas holidays, but come back on the 28th, purposely for this agenda, one single business of the National Assembly on the 28th of December will be to pass the budget, which is a success. You know, if we succeed in doing that on 28th, like we know it is going to happen on the 28th, because the appropriation committee have gone back to their working desk. They're going to work night and day between now and the 28th, but the entire House will be back on the 28th, including the Senate, to make sure we meet this particular objective, the target line of passing it before the end of the year. So there is hope. Nigerians should be happy about that.
Well, it's good to hear from you that there is hope that the budget cycle will, remain sacrosanct, the January-December or December-January budget cycle. But I'm not too sure that we've heard from you exactly what these errors are, at least the key ones that would, make the National Assembly push forward the passage of this appropriation bill. What exactly are those errors? And is it a case of the, unwieldiness on the part of the MDAs, for example? And makes one recall the Oronsaye report that talks about the need to trim down these MDAs. What exactly are the issues?
All the MDAs are given their envelopes, which they work, they are asked to work within those envelopes. It's a mixture, it's a combination of so many other factors. And I don't think it's proper for us to begin to declare to Nigerians where we are on the budget when it is a few days that we'll pass it into law. Allow us to do the job that we are doing. We have found some gaps that we need to block, and we are, working according to the target that we have set for ourselves. We will meet up with that target, and that is what should be more important to Nigerians, that we'll meet up with the target. So the products that will come out on the 28th of December must have addressed any concern that we must have noticed in the course of reviewing presentations made by the various MDAs.
Well, thank you very much, Kalu, for the great job you and other legislators are doing at the National Assembly. But one thing that worries the average Nigerian is that of budget padding. And it was as if we saw something similar from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, where over 250 billion amount meant for defense purposes was inserted in humanitarian budget padding. Tell us, was that part of the litany of errors that the National Assembly discovered?
There is no budget padding. I must say that it was just the misunderstanding with regards to the budget heading, and where the heading supposed to, what is supposed to describe in the budget title of the heading. That particular mixture or misunderstanding was clear when we invited the Minister in charge of Finance and also the Office of the Humanitarian Affairs. And openly, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs accepted that the explanation given by the Honorable Minister of Finance was in order. It was just a misrepresentation, which was actually, which went out to the press without proper clarification given to it. So on the issues before us as appropriation committee, we looked at it. I was in the room that day when we engaged with them. There was nothing like padding. It was just a description of a title in the budget that was not well presented before the public. It had been cleared, and that is not the issue that we are looking at. We want to do a thorough job. What I want Nigerians to take away from the National Assembly is that we are committed to doing a thorough job that will reflect our current realities. And if we find out that before the presentation of this budget, there were things that did not reflect the current realities in our economy, it is our duty, based on 88, 89, to make sure that we fine-tune it before presenting it. We should not be in a hurry. Though we have reversed January to December, it doesn't mean that we should now sacrifice quality on the altar of speed. I keep mentioning that because a lot of people now have gotten used to this January to December, and they want us to hurriedly make the budget available. And in doing that, we might make some mistakes. So we are trying to make sure we review and cross-review and make sure that all the square holes are blocked with square pegs, and all the round holes are blocked with the round pegs to the satisfaction of you and I as citizens of the Federal Republic.
Thanks very much. I mean, very poetic in your submissions there. It's not for me. Nigerians will judge the outcome of that. But now, another worrisome issue for Nigerians is that of budget performance, as your constitutional responsibility is the oversight function. From what you've seen, just few days to the end of 2022, what were the shortcomings you noticed in the 2022 budget? I'm talking about the National Assembly now, not you as an individual.
Right.
What were the shortcomings creating 133 million more poverty in the country? Would you say the budget performed to its optimum?
Yeah, the performance of the budget, I must say, we'll give it a pass mark. That is not without saying that there are still some areas that we need to go beyond paper, budget to realities that is out there facing you and I, and we observe some duplications. We observe some projects that have been in the budget for 2, 3, 4 years ago, repeating itself as ongoing. And we have raised questions. We raised questions to these MDAs, asking them, why is it still ongoing 3 years after, 4 years after? Why is it not coming to an end? It appears certain MDAs were repeating certain things just to close up their budget. Some of these, projects ought to have ended, and some of them are not up to the amount of money based on the percentage that have been released for such projects. So we queried some of those issues because, for example, if a project was worth 7 billion naira in 2019, and maybe 50% was released in 2019, and then you come to 2022, 2023, and you're telling us that the performance is 30%. We will query it because the inflationary rate in 2023 and in 2022 is different from what it was when the money was released in 2019. And why did you not achieve the 50% performance with the 50% release? So if the government has released 70% and you're presenting to us performance of 30%, we query it and we make sure that monies are located for us to appropriate to be able to complete 70% when it's supposed to be 30% left or 50% left, that we said no to that. And so we asked them to review those proposals to make sure that they reflect the realities. So when we say realities, these are some of the things that we saw, that we cannot keep appropriating money as a National Assembly on issues that are supposed to have been ended. And if it's not ended, there must be a percentage report that reflects that money has been expended there. Granted that inflationary rate and the dollar exchange and all the rest of them has had an impact on projections made last year and all the rest of them, but not conceding that it should be to the extent of, rubbishing the report or the result that ought to have been achieved before this inflationary rate went, haywire, as it is currently.
And that's why I asked you, before we let you go very quickly, the Oronsaye report. The National Assembly doesn't seem to be coming down hard enough on the MDAs, whether in terms of the need to trim down or to, wind down to avoid some of these duplications that you even referred to yourself. What exactly is the National Assembly doing about that?
Well, what we have done, like I mentioned to you, we sent some of these MDAs back to go and look at their budgets, and we picked up some of those ones that ought to have ended that are still existing, and we pick up those that the amount allocated to them ought not to be as high it was allocated, asking them to go and review it and include new things that is actually, for example, you are giving a community water when there are other 2, 3, 4, 5 water projects in the same community. And you still want us to put in maybe about 500 million in the same community on water. We say, no, why don't you put this particular 500 million to achieve road for them, or block of classrooms for them, or electricity for them? So we try to diversify what has been like a template for some of the MDAs. And we are saying, no, it is no longer going to be business as usual, where as it is, that is how it will be forever. As it is, yes, but reality says, no, it should be shifted to the right. So shift it to the right. We may not touch the money, maybe moving your fund to other areas, but within the mandate of your MDA, that money should be appropriated in a manner that will reflect the needs of our people. And that is why if you go to most of the constituencies across the nation, let me take, for example, the budget of the National Assembly with regards to constituency project. I want to tell you, there has never been a time in the history of the National Assembly where constituency projects, actually was as visible as it has been. It is very visible. You see classroom blocks renovated, new classroom blocks there, ICT centers, you see them there, about boreholes and all the rest of them that reflect the needs of the people. That is ongoing because there was an insistence by the appropriation committee that whatever you are presenting that will be the constituency project of your community must be, what is the need of the community. And we achieved that by looking at what was proposed before you presented this. So to avoid duplicating, not every day you say training. While you are training, those people need to drink water. While you are training, those people want electricity. While they are training, they need classroom
Benjamin,
blocks. So those were some of the work we did with this budget.
Yeah, maybe I should, come in here. I don't want to take you back to the independent corrupt practices commission investigating, carrying out so much investigation on the constituency projects that you're talking about. But how much of the Auditor General of the Federation's reports each year do you use to reconcile each budget estimate? There are discrepancies, there are copious situations of fraud, corruption arising from the Auditor General's reports. Does the National Assembly use that to reconcile what is so that to avoid discrepancies and duplication of functions or projects, as you put it, and not padding?
As you know, in the House, we have a committee that is known as the Public Accounts Committee. And this Public Accounts Committee work on a daily basis with the Auditor General's Office of the Auditor Generals, and as well as the Accountant General's office. And reports are laid from time to time from Public Accounts Committee that is headed by a very competent gentleman, Honorable Waloke. And Waloke is an experienced lawmaker and has highlighted severally some of these gaps, which is shared before the House in the form of reports and also communicated to the Appropriation Committee that makes use of it in the course of appropriating funds to these various, MDAs. And I can assure you, yes, the instrumentality of the Public Accounts Committee and their report, which reflects the report of the Auditor General, has been very useful in ensuring that the budget that we present to the country is a budget that accommodates the input of the Auditor General's office.
All right, we'll have to leave it there.
Yeah.
Benjamin Kalu is a spokesman of the House of Representatives. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight and clarifying these issues.